what makes you irresistible to men? What is it that really attracts a man to you that we may not think about? Thank you so much for joining us again on Second Act TV. Once again, I'm so happy to welcome back Bob Grant, the founder of Relationship Headquarters and the host of Relationship Headquarters podcast, which you just launched. Bob, thanks so much for being here again.
Thanks for having me, Silk. It's always nice to be here.
Bob, of course, is a clinically trained relationship expert, and your focus is to help us understand men. So today, one of our favorite topics, and that is what makes you, meaning women, irresistible to men? What is it that really attracts a man to you that we may not think about? And you say there are 6 things we need to know about.
Yes, there are 6 we have pointed out. I mean, I'm sure we could come up with 26 if we need to. But we want to these are things to key on that are a lot easier versus having this huge list in our head. This is like your cheat sheet you could carry in your mental purse.
Well, and the points here, again, this is not brain surgery, but it's something that we don't think about. And if we did, we might have a lot better luck out there on the dating scene. So number 1 here, again, makes so much sense. Being approachable. That in order to attract a man, you need to be approachable.
So when I talk with women about approachable, sometimes the feedback I get or the response I get is, well, what if I'm not interested? And the thinking is that I'll be cautious. They don't say guarded, but cautious until there's a man I'm interested in. And I tell them, I said, it doesn't work that way. I said, those walls you have with that guard, they're either kind of up or mostly down. You don't get to put them up and down when it's convenient. And so when that guardedness, all men pick up on this. And it doesn't mean we go to the extreme with it and we're just overly friendly with everyone. But it's an approachable, as in you're willing for someone to take a risk. Because remember, with men, it's his job to take a risk, his job to initiate. He picks up on certain signals. And if it doesn't seem like you're accessible, it doesn't seem like you're warm, then there are a lot of guys that would be good potentials that will misinterpret that as, oh, she has no interest, or she doesn't, because that looks the same as when you're not interested.
We actually did a whole video on that just recently, are you approachable? Because women, I'll just say, they don't get it, or we don't get it a lot of times. Or as you just said, or we don't want to be, put ourselves out there to where everybody comes up. Well, if you want to meet people, then yeah, approachability is just so important. Here's another so simple, and we've talked about this, but we tend to forget: your smile. Your smile just speaks volumes.
I'll even go farther, and it's when a woman smiles to a man, what that signals is, I'm safe. Some men might misinterpret that, of course, but we can do that with anything. Smiling makes it not only safe but approachable to someone, but it lets a man know, especially if you're in a relationship, that what he did was a good job, that, oh, that worked. Sometimes it's a regional thing. I've had one say, I live in New York. If I smiled at every man, I said, okay, we're not talking about like eye contact with everyone, as opposed to, there was a study that was done years ago, college students, but still, and they asked all these men what they found attractive in a woman with all the ones they found attractive. And after boiling it down, what they came up with was the ones that smiled were consistently rated more attractive. And that may be more comfortable for some of you than others, but it's a built-in thing you have, that when you smile with a man, it instantly lowers his guard. And he sees you as not a threat, which causes him to lower his guard, take more risk, and actually lean in towards you.
And we forget about the look on our face, if you will. I don't know if it's unnatural or just uncomfortable for some people, just to,
How about we say vulnerable? Because it is vulnerable to smile.
It's key. It's one of the key things to being attractive or attracting other people. It's absolutely your smile. We've talked about that in other segments, and I don't think we talk about it enough.
And that's what I remind folks is that when they ask for sometimes what are 3 magic words or something, well, the words may change, but the smile never does. Having that smile fits almost every situation. I mean, unless you're sad about something, let's don't overuse it.
Yeah.
Just a smile in general, because we want a man to feel safe and pleasant around you, because that's what incentivizes him to take more risk, to try more, is, okay, wow, I'm doing a good job, or at least she appreciates my effort.
Here's another one that we absolutely don't think about, consciously, I guess, your ability to be at ease. Who says, "Oh, I'm gonna be at ease today so I can be more attractive."
Right.
Explain that. Explain why that's important.
Yeah, so this is old research, old. And what they found was of all the variables, attractiveness, weight, color of hair, pick any variable you want.
Hmm.
The ability of BDs came across as the most advantageous. And if you want to describe that, think of how you act around men you're not interested in. You're not
Hmm.
mean, you're not ugly, you don't care, not in a dismissive way, but you're
Hmm.
not really thinking about what they think of you.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking to women, I'm saying we want to treat every man the same. It's not always easy to do. But when you get in the habit of being gracious to all men, and setting boundaries where you need to,
Hmm.
then that ability to be at ease carries over with every man you come to. The alternative is I'm going to, just really be closed off to every man unless it's the one I'm interested in. You're not getting the ability of ease because you're too nervous. We
Yeah.
want this to be a habit with you so that when you're nervous, it still just happens, just like a smile. It's just what you do. You're just kind and gracious and you treat all men equally. And men will pick up on that, I promise.
And if you have the ability to make people feel comfortable in general, I mean, that will improve all areas of your life, be it work, be it friendships, family, whatever. But to be able to, one, be at ease and put people at ease, I was going to say it's a gift, but really it's something that I don't know, you can easily develop, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, this is absolutely for someone to develop
Mm-hmm.
because choosing to be at ease is the byproduct. That's what it looks like. But inside, it's much more of a choice that I'm going to treat everyone the same, which means I'm going to be a little more curious with someone I might not have. I might listen a little bit longer. We
Mm-hmm.
can call it gracious, but it's even more than that. It's, if you think of your best friend's brother or someone you have no romantic interest in, you're nice, you're kind, but you're not overly doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
if that's what you carry around with all men,
Mm-hmm.
then that's just how they start to see you. I know the same conversely. There was a guy I knew in high school, and he was attractive, but he wasn't necessarily the most attractive. But what I noticed is he treated every girl the same, and it showed because
Mm-hmm.
all the girls liked him, and they
Mm-hmm.
could pick up on that. He was as easygoing and as pleasant and is a certain, strong masculine with all of them. So even if he wasn't interested, he still would listen when they had something to say. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember I noticed that even then, thinking, I don't know what to call that, but I can tell what that does.
Mm-hmm.
And if we reverse that, that's the same thing we're wanting from women.
Well, another great point because all of these can be reversed. Absolutely. Like just think about approachable. If a man is approachable, you're likely to get hit on more as well. I mean, there's just so many things here that to take away. And again, I'd love to hear it in the comments what your experience, what this has been and what you can recommend out there. Here's another one: the ability to laugh. So many people just don't have laughter in them. I get criticized for it all the time. I'm told I laugh too much. So,
Well, but some of the laughter part has to do with how seriously we take ourselves.
right.
And also, especially when things are tough, when they're harsh, it's
Mm-hmm.
to have the ability to put it in perspective versus, my circumstances are tough, therefore
Mm-hmm.
that's a reflection on who I am. Not necessarily, especially in a partner. I mean, we want to know that when during tough times that our partner isn't going to go up and down depending on the circumstances. I mean, sometimes stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that ability to laugh also is a good measure for are we a good fit? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
men, they don't say this necessarily, but if the woman they're with doesn't think they're funny, I don't mean a jokester, but if we can't laugh together, then I don't know how well we're really connecting. It's really hard to have intimacy if there's no laughter.
Mm.
And it doesn't mean someone has to be a jokester and someone has to be vivacious with it. But humor has a way of connecting folks in a way that we get how they're thinking and can appreciate it much more so than anything else.
It's funny. You made me think of something. Robert, who's on the show a lot, said that one of his friends said something about, well, I knew this relationship was over with when, she quit laughing at my jokes. So, I mean, there really is. If laughter is, yeah, it just puts you, well, at ease, the other point here, but it's such a wonderful, wonderful trait to bond with someone. Absolutely.
It's also a reflection of you because even yours, you got a good example with you is if you're more vivacious with it, that's who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the, so sure, we may keep an eye on that. Maybe I overuse something. That's fine, but we don't want to get away from the core. And if something is funny, I am supposed to say, or playful, don't hold that back,
Hmm.
as opposed to what we think of this. But you thought it was funny. You thought it was goofy. You thought it was, that's the stuff that's endearing. Now it's vulnerable. It's a little uncomfortable at times, but that's what makes you more appealing versus being guarded and safe.
Well, here's one that is definitely can be reversed. Your ability to listen. That a man, really appreciates a woman who listens and doesn't just constantly talk about herself.
And yeah, it can be reversed both ways. I think men and women do this a bit different. So most men, I'm generalizing, guys, you let me know in the
Mm-hmm.
comments, is we don't necessarily talk or share a lot. I don't know that we need it as much. And also we don't encourage a lot of that. And so some of that we get used to solving our own problems. And it feels odd for us to have someone, especially a woman, give us her undivided attention. But it's really nice for that because our idea of listening is we want to get our thoughts out and maybe get some feedback with her. We don't really like her fixing stuff because we take pride in solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes to our detriment, but we like solving a problem. But that's why I think that for most men, the ultimate prize, especially when they to get married, is to marry your best friend, someone
Mm-hmm.
that's not just appealing but a
Mm-hmm.
confidant as well.
Right.
That she knows my work, my stuff, anywhere, and she can kind of give me feedback of someone that
Mm-hmm.
knows me. And we don't get that at the place. We're not going to get that from our buddies. And so that's a role that a woman can provide, like a sanctuary
Mm-hmm.
that we really look forward to. Men just don't know how to say it the way I did.
Well, the ability to listen, or just being a good listener and not talking so much, I think is one of the top things that make you attract. I mean, in order to be the most interesting person in the room, we've talked about this before too. Shut up. Don't ask questions. Let others talk about themselves. It's again something so easy to do if we can just keep this up here. But a lot of people just talk out of nervousness, and ruin what might be an initial attraction. So again, something to really, really think about. Keep that in your head. Finally, here, this is interesting. Dressing feminine. You don't hear that much anymore, maybe because you're a Southern boy, but it's so true. Dressing feminine makes you more attractive. Let's clarify what you mean by that.
Oh, yes, because I've gotten all kinds of comments over the years. When I
Yeah.
first put that in the woman in a door, oh, the
Yeah.
comments I got and to it. And it's not and I would tell women, I say, let's reverse this first quickly. If I tell a man to make sure she feels safe, that doesn't mean pay for everything. It doesn't mean treat her like a little girl. As I said, let's focus on what someone likes in general. And so, from a feminine standpoint, it's men find that appealing. So it doesn't mean someone has to do it. It doesn't mean that's 24/7. It doesn't mean that I never am masculine and never assertive. It doesn't mean that. But remember, for men, it's compliments I found work much better in general
Mhm.
than equals. Because when it's equal, we have the same kind of role and energy and personality. That's great for a task with
Mhm.
getting stuff done. But as a man, seeing you as an equal is I'm not going to be as attentive when you're hurting or sad. I mean, because we're equals. Just like at
Mhm.
work, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't rush in and rescue you if we're working together. That'd be insulting. And if you like that feeling of him being protective and him having that role where he has that masculine energy, that's the big phrase now, is the feminine part is something that signals to him that he is in that role and that he likes doing it. And I would have clients that would come in, they go through the program, and this is one-on-one. They would say, I'm going to say this one. I would tell them, I say, try wearing a dress every day. And I said, just see how it feels. I said, I don't care if you wear a
Mhm.
dress. They would come in, they would work at the local paper here. They're like, God, it does feel different. Now,
Mhm.
it's not a quota, it's not a you have to kind of stuff, but it's anything when someone does about how it affects how they see themselves and how they feel. And that's what men pick up on. It's primarily with this is how a woman sees herself.
Well, the whole, what's masculine and feminine, and I mean, it's gotten such a. I mean, we can't even talk about it anymore. Somehow, we're just this conversation right here is going to slot us in the has been category. We're talking about what makes you more attractive, and if you want to be, well, then men and women are different. I'm sorry, they are. Why is that so controversial?
At least the feedback I've gotten is that I or anyone's trying to like put someone in a box
Hmm.
and that I have to be a certain way for a man. And I go, well, with our partnerships, there are things that other person likes. I mean, if I'm
Mhm.
telling men, I say, look, women don't like needy. Women really don't like that. And so if a guy is going through a tough time, I say, that's fair. I said, but complaining to her all the time, that's not what she's for. That's what your buddies are for,
Mhm.
therapist or coach or whoever you go to. And she can see some. But if you just want to talk about how awful things are,
Mhm.
that's not going to work well with women. And whether that upsets him or not, I'm trying to help him. I'm trying to give him the best chance. It doesn't mean she's selfish or that she's narcissistic or
Mhm.
she's borderline or whatever
Mhm.
label. It doesn't mean that. It's just that she likes to lean or rely on him if there's a problem. I don't have to worry about him falling apart
Yeah.
because I can count on him to be strong when there's a tough time. And see, I don't think that's good or bad. I just think that's her preference.
Yeah, and yeah, that's something that in all these discussions, maybe it's because we are older and we were raised in a different time. I don't quite get why men and women can't be different and why it's not that one is better or the other, but yes, we are different. I'm sorry. So anyway, enough of my rant about this. Great points again to think about. What makes you irresistible? What makes you attractive? And all of these things we have in our control. If we focus on them, we can certainly help ourselves out a little bit to be noticed more often. Bob, is there anything else that you'd like to add to this conversation? Anything I didn't ask?
As we were talking, we gave 6 things. What I
Hmm.
find usually is if you go through them, there's usually one or two
Hmm.
that probably speak to you the most or that stand out. And those are the ones I would lean into. And that simply means being curious about it. Maybe I don't like it. Okay, well, why don't I like it?
Hmm.
Or does this really work? Maybe I try and experiment with it.
Yeah.
And if you focus on those, usually
Hmm.
that's where you'll see some immediate impact.
Yeah, makes total sense. Bob, thank you again for your time. Always appreciate talking with you. We will link to all of your information to your podcast relationship headquarters as well as your page. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you directly and coach with you, they can certainly do so. We'll have a link for a discovery call in our show notes. And Bob, I look forward to another discussion soon on Second Act TV.